I'm willing to compromise this, but I am not going to compromise on that. I know people who got married because marriage was in their circle at the time. If you're preparing for your husband, but you're not preparing to be a wife, what are women really asking for? I want my man tall, I want an attractive man, I want a man who is built, but they are overweight. How are you going to ask for a masculine man when you're a masculine woman? Dating isn't commitment. In this week's episode, I would like to answer, in a sense, a lot of the questions that I get about being single and a lot of the concerns that a lot of women especially have. I've found that the times that we live in, there is so much pressure on women to be with someone. It's like I get it all the time. People are like, okay, so what's wrong with you? Why are you single? And I often say, I'm single by choice. It's not because it's hard to get a man. That's the easy part. Like, men are everywhere, and there are men who really don't even care. They just want to be with someone. So it's not about not being able to be with someone. It's about being intentional, about not being with the wrong person. There is so much emphasis, I find these days, placed on being in a relationship that we tend to forget some of the most important things. And so this week, I really want to ask, why do you want to be with a man? Why do you want a man? And oftentimes we don't ask ourselves that question. I mean, there are people that you will ask, why do you want a man? And they'll say things like, oh, because I'm lonely, I need a company, I need a man to complete me. There are really women out there who believe that they're incomplete without a man. There are women who feel like there is something missing. And don't get me wrong, God did not call us to be here alone. Like, that is something that God wants for us, to have family and to have a connection with someone. And again, that's not for everyone either, because there are some people who are actually called to singleness. Like, that's their ministry. They're supposed to be by themselves. But I think it is more important to focus on yourself, focus on what you want, what your desires are. Because one of the things for me is I started viewing relationships different when I no longer needed a man to make me happy. I was so unhappy. I had so much turmoil going on inside of me. There was so much chaos that I never stopped to look at the fact that it was me. It was a me thing. There's nothing a man could have done to make me better. There's nothing a man could have done to fill me. And so you also find that a lot of times women, and I'm speaking for women now, will be in and out of relationships. You end this relationship and you end up in another one, and the other one is not any better. But then the cycle continues because you do not address the root cause. The truth is, if you are unhappy on the inside, if you have not found peace in yourself, there's nothing a man can do. It doesn't matter how amazing that man is. And that is why sometimes you find that a woman will meet a man because she wants a man. She'll meet an amazing man. She'll meet a good man, and she will ruin him. She will hurt him because nothing that he can do will satisfy her. That also causes infidelity, because you'll find that happiness that you think that a man can give to you is usually very short-lived. And that's why you'll hear people say, men and women alike, but again, I'm speaking for women now. You'll hear people say, oh, I did so much, it doesn't matter what I did, nothing was ever good enough. Truth is, you are correct. Nothing is ever good enough for a person who is seeking external validation, who is seeking external love. Like, the way I see it, you should be in a relationship with a person who concretes that for you. So you already know what it is to love yourself. You already know what it is to feel complete by yourself. And then this person just comes along to be the cement, right? To hold that together. And so many times I've seen like women say, oh, he met me when I was so broken, when I couldn't love myself, when I didn't see the value in myself. And that does work sometimes, but oftentimes what you find is after you have healed, after you really truly learn how to love yourself, you no longer find that person attractive because that person was only filling a void. Now, once that void is filled, that darkness is gone, there's no longer a hole. Now you're there with that person, like, okay, how do you fit into this stage of my life? How do you complement where I am right now? And that a lot of times causes people to fall out of love. But the truth is not so much fall out of love, it's just that that person has changed a season. And the worst thing to do is to enter into a relationship and enter into a commitment when you don't even know yourself. You find that there are so many women hopping into relationships when they don't even know what they want. They haven't figured out what it is that they're looking for. They haven't figured out their likes and dislikes. How can you choose to love someone or even be able to genuinely love someone if you don't even know yourself enough to love yourself? There is no self-love if you don't know who you're loving. You haven't taken the time to yourself to really get to know you. And now here you are, still uncertain about who you are, what you want, where you're headed. And then you add another person to that because you figure, hey, this confusion that I'm having right now, this stage that I'm going through, if I have someone, this person will make it better. And so it doesn't matter how much money that person has. It doesn't matter how sweet they are, how kind they are. There will always be internal conflict. And so I ask you, if you are single, what is your reason? Do you really know why you want to be with a man? Is it just that you think your biological clock is ticking and you want children? Because you also have to be real with yourself. Is it that you want a relationship, or is it that you just want this particular partnership because it takes two to accomplish whatever it is? Is it that you're getting into a relationship because it is easier if I'm with someone to afford the bills? It's easier if he can help cover that because right now I'm at a spot. Like, we have to be clear about what it is that we want. And that's why you find so many people in relationships and they're so lonely, because the answer that you seek cannot be found in another person. The peace that you seek can only be found in God. And think about it. If you get with a person who's seeking for joy, seeking to be complete, and only God can complete that person, just imagine what it will feel like when the honeymoon phase has passed. And so I say to people, like, I am very clear about what I want, and that's one of the things for me. I have found it to be easier once I know what I want, I know what I don't want. It became so much easier for me to immediately identify something and be like, okay, that's not for me. It's so easy, so much easier now. My discernment is like, yeah, I can tell, like, okay, that's not for me. We have to be clear about that. We have to know what our non-negotiables are. Like, I am at a point where I know exactly what I am looking for. I cannot tell you what the person looks like, but I have it. I know I have brought it to the Lord and I said, listen, this is what I'm looking for. I'm willing to compromise this, but I am not going to compromise on that. And there are way too many women who are willing to settle just to be with someone. Why? Because everyone else around them is married or have children and they feel like they're left out. I know people who got married because marriage was in their circle at the time. Everyone around them was getting married, their friends, their coworkers. And so they go and they make this lifetime commitment to someone simply because they felt left out. And that right there is a wrong reason. Now, I'm not saying you're not supposed to aspire to be married, but you have to be clear and you have to be honest with yourself. What is it that you're looking for? Because I just feel like there are a lot of women out here who say, oh, I'm waiting for the man that God has for me, but they are not even prepared for that man. They have not done the work. It's you're preparing for your husband, but you're not preparing to be a wife. You're preparing to have this amazing man, but you're not making yourself a better woman. You're not doing the work. You're not diving into the deeper parts of you to find the trauma that needs to be healed. So what are you going to do with a good man? What you are going to do, I can tell you, is ruin this good man. And so whatever it is that you are looking for, you have to be at the place where you are ready to attract that to yourself. Like, why would you want to be broken and find a person that is healed? You're going to drain that person. And so it is important for you to know what you want, know what you're trying to attract, know who you are. Are you deserving of that? Like, I can remember there was this, I think it was a quote on social media I saw circulating where it asked, ladies, if your man gets up in the middle of the night and asks you to make a sandwich, would you? And I was blown away by the responses. There are women who said, oh, what's wrong with his hands? Why can't he go do it? Why can't, And I look at these things and I think to myself, like, you have to be very unrealistic to think that way. Because if you ask a woman right now, it doesn't matter how disgusting her partner is, right? She will tell you that I would love to have a good man. And so the definition of good man is different for many, but for the most part, I'm sure she means kind, loves me, pours into me, reassures me, makes me feel safe, provides, that kind of thing. And you're saying on one side that this is the kind of man that I want. I want this amazing man who takes care of me. If you are a believer, a man who loves God, a man who's a good father for the most part, stuff like that. But then on the other side, you're saying, but if this man, this amazing man that I'm saying that I want, gets up in the middle of the night for whatever reason, maybe he just wants to have your sandwich. Maybe it is a case where he's not feeling well. But the fact that it would mean so much to you in a negative way that you're going to argue it out, oh, I'm not his slave, I'm not his helper, it makes you stop and think, what are women really asking for? Because if you're asking for a good man and you have a good man, it's a no-brainer. You should be happy. You should feel fulfilled being able to feed your man or your husband in the middle of the night. You should feel good to know that he gets up and he's like, babe, can you? Now, I'm not saying every single night, right? But I'm saying if your man gets up and he says, hey, I'd like to have a sandwich, you should feel so soft. You should naturally feel like, okay, I want to go feed my man, So it makes you think that women aren't really thinking about what they want. They're not really thinking about the kind of man that they're asking for. Women are saying, okay, there's some women who say, oh, I want my man tall, I want an attractive man, I want a man who is built, but they are overweight. They do not care what they put in their stomachs. They eat anything, they consume all the sugar, they got big stomachs. They don't care to even try to work out at home, let alone hit the gym. And I am not saying, disclaimer, I'm not saying if you do not have the perfect body or if you do not have an athletic body, you cannot be with a man or it wouldn't be a good relationship. Then what I'm saying is your expectations versus your reality. Who are you? Are you the kind of woman that can attract that man? Are you the kind of woman who's deserving of that man? So you're saying you want an athletic man, but yet you cannot commit to 10 minutes working out. You cannot commit to lowering your sugar intake. You cannot commit to having one piece of chicken instead of 3. But then you have all these expectations of the man. He needs to be tall. He needs to be well kept. But then you don't go out and get your hair done. You want to see this man and you see someone else with that man, or you see that man and you're like, that's the kind of man that I want. I want my man well kept. I love when my man smells good and he takes care of himself. But you would die to go get your nails done, to go get a pedicure. You do not put yourself together. You do not look in the mirror and say, okay, if this is the kind of man that I want. You have to prepare yourself. If you're single, you have to prepare yourself for the kind of man that you're saying that you want. You're saying you want a provider, but at the same time, he needs to be a provider and a protector, but you're still struggling to be submissive. You still are at the place where you're struggling to decide if you want to operate in your masculine or your feminine. You're saying, I want a provider, a protector, a good man, a good husband, a good father. But at the same time, you cannot even accept the idea that this man will be the head of the household according to the Bible. Like that's his role is to lead, and you should submit, not be a slave, because so many women misunderstand what submission is. But you're asking for what you are not. What you're seeking, you are not what will attract that. You know what I mean? And so we have to be real. We have to be honest with ourselves. Like, how are you going to ask for a masculine man when you're a masculine woman? Like, the masculine complements the feminine, right? And so we look at it and we think it's just simple. Oh, man, boy meets girl, boy marries girl, whatever. It's not like that. And that's why so many people are struggling. The rush to get into a relationship that is really just not for you. Relationships right now might not be for you. And I had to I had to get to that place where I realized that, okay, maybe this isn't for me right now. I realized that there are some things that I needed to work on if I was ever going to be in a healthy relationship with someone. If I was ever going to be able to foster a healthy relationship, I had to fix the issues that I had. I had to sit and look at myself like, okay, if I was to get this man that I dream of, this man that I pray for, that I have never met, what kind of wife would I be to him? If I am holding this man that either I have or I don't have to a certain standard, what am I doing to match that energy? And so sometimes I think women can be so delusional because they have this, and again, it does happen where you see a man who's not that attractive and you're like, oh my God, how did he get her? That is kind of different, right? There is something there. Maybe you just don't have what she has and you'll never be able to understand their connection and vice versa. But the truth is, if you're saying that you want to be with someone, you have to be preparing yourself. You have to be willing to understand that, okay, so I can't just walk around the house in these old ripped homeless looking dresses anymore because now I'll be with a man. Not saying that a man cannot accept you that way, but you have to prepare yourself that what if it is a man that admires a woman who puts herself together. Like I hear women talking about getting a high value man, but you cannot go out and polish your nails. Like, why does a high value man need to settle for you? You know, we talk so much about women not settling, but what about the fact that men don't need to settle either, right? So you'll hear women say, oh, I want a certain type of man and he needs to whatever. But baby, you will not even do something to yourself to look attractive to that man. You will not even take the time out to pour into yourself. You are expecting this man to come and sweep you off your feet, but yet you cannot commit to 10 minutes of just sitting and meditating and taking care of yourself. What can that person do for you? Right? The real question is, what can that person do for you and what can you do for them? And so I say to you, if you are single, if you are in that season, if you're in the waiting season, if you are dating, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to ask yourself the hard questions. You have to be able to look at yourself and say, okay, am I in the place? Am I ready for this that I'm asking for? Am I preparing myself to be the person for the person that I'm expecting? And just understand also that things take time. And I am at that place where I'm like, okay, I would rather go slowly. I would rather date, get to know people, and get there slowly than rush into something that I'm going to have to try to find an exit to head out, right? I believe so much, and I've said it before, I believe in rotational dating because what it does is save you time. I was saying it to a girlfriend of mine earlier that instead of dating one man for 4 months, dating one for 5 months, that doesn't go anywhere, dating another one for whatever, what I believe in is rotational dating, meaning you're getting to know these people at the same time, and that is fine. It does not mean you're having sex with them. It does not mean you're committing. Dating should not be commitment. I cannot stress that enough. Dating isn't commitment. Dating is getting to know someone, putting the time into getting to know someone to see if they're fit to be in a relationship. So we're not talking about sleeping with people. We're talking about getting to know them, which means you can go on a date tonight and see how it's feeling, and someone invites you out tomorrow night. And if you have the time, you go out tomorrow night. Be very clear that this is what I am doing. I'm getting to know people. Now, will there be situations where you meet someone and you're like, I just know that this is the one? Absolutely. But ladies, do not be so quick either to commit out of desperation because you so badly want a man. You meet this guy, you're like, okay, he's cute. I like how he smells. I like his nails. Oh yeah, and he did drive a nice car. Okay, I'll commit. Do not take yourself off the shelf prematurely out of desperation because you just want to have someone. Because a lot of times when you're that desperate, you probably shouldn't even be dating because at that point you're incapable of seeing the red flags. The flags will be there waving in your eyes, blinding you, and you will not see because you're so desperate to be with a person. So ask yourself, while listening to this, I know I might have struck a nerve for some. For some might be like, listen, I don't care what you say, I'm still gonna run on in, girl, because I need to get this man. And that's okay because each of us are on different journeys in our lives. We're on different pages, and that's okay. But if that is you, if you are single and you are considering the mate for you, be sure to ask yourself, what is the reason why I want to be with this person? Is it because I'm a Christian and I do not want to have to fornicate, so I want a husband? Because there are women, it might sound bad if that isn't you, but there are women who want to rush into a relationship, who want to get married because they do not want to have sex, they do not want to have kids out of wedlock, and that right there isn't a good reason to even be in a relationship. So take some time, ladies. If you're single, it is the perfect time, and I did not realize that until now, how important it is to use your single time wisely. While you're alone, work on yourself, spend the time to get to know you, get to know how you want to be loved. Put yourself in the position where you're able to allow yourself to be loved. And all of that happens in your singleness, because once you get into a relationship, then now you have to consider the needs of another person. And the advantage is being able to be selfish. Being single, in your singleness, you're able to be selfish. Once you get into a relationship, if you're thinking selfish, then your relationship is already on the way out the door. It's already on the way to fail. So take the time, spend your time wisely. I've heard this saying that says, you're not lonely, you're just bored. And so if you're single, maybe you just need to find something to do. Go on a solo date, go out, go to the salon, go get your hair done, go out with your girlfriends. Get to know you more before you invite someone into your space. Thank you so very much for joining me again. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed, feel free to share with your friends, like, and of course, leave a comment. Until next time, bye.